Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and I have Professor Sudhir Bisht, who came from New Delhi to New York with a particular objective, and that relates to his upcoming book. I find it quite fascinating, Sudhir ji, that somebody is having a concept of a novel in his mind and goes to another city, and not just city, but big city that is also known as Apple. Uh, and you also went to the Apple store here. But what was the basic kind of anticipation that you had in your mind before you landed here about a week ago to kind of get a feel of New York life? So let me begin with a very short answered question, that is, how was it overall? How did you like New York? How would you rate our city from 0 to 10?
Wonderful, wonderful. First of all, thank you very much for having me. And as you said, I am a professor of management, and I am also an active consultant. See, one thing is, America is an aspirational country as far as Indians are concerned, or as far as people from any other part of the world are concerned. So even, for example, I see people in Israel, I see people in Singapore. Everybody wants to experience the way of life of America. So this is my second visit. As you know, I was here earlier also to your city, New York, and also to San Francisco. But this time I came with a definitive research in mind. As you know, I am writing my second book, which is again it's a book of a young professional who is and it talks about his way of life in various parts of the world, including India. So the last leg of his life takes him to New York. So I think as a writer, I would not be doing justice to the character of and the protagonist of the book if I don't know the city where he is actively working and where a lot of things are happening around him. So that brought me to New York, and my experience has been in one word, fantabulous. And I think New York is truly a city that never sleeps. Okay, of course that is not true, because I thought it sleeps rather early. Perhaps Manhattan never sleeps, but the rest of New York sleeps at 7. But I would rate it, I can't give it a rating of 10 on 10. I am a professor, I never give full marks, but 9 on 10.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
So let's begin with few aspects of New York, and subway plays an important role in the flow of New Yorkers' day. And you had many visits in the wonderful New York subway system. How was the experience? What did you observe?
Fantastic. So subways and metros and undergrounds, they have always fascinated me. So if I want to research Chennai, so the first thing I do is I'll buy a metro card, and I'll at random pick up stations which are not prominent stations. I will get down at those stations and start walking through the bazaar. Normally you will find in India, outside a metro station, you will find some market is there. So that gives you the feel of that place. So if you want to live the country, you need to go to places, or you need to experience the mass transit system of that place. I think New York is not New York if it does not have an MTA. So I tried to travel on all the lines possible. No, I could not, of course, disembark at all the stations, but I traveled on all the lines. One thing which struck me is how efficient the system is, and the information is flowing onto your mobile in real time. Okay, this is something which we can carry back home and try to implement. So if let us say train R is going to be 7 minutes late at, let us say, Jamaica 179 or 171, whatever the name of the station is, it will come to you in real time. Suppose the elevator has stopped working, so information will come to you in real time. This is fantastic. Second thing is, you can find all of America in a subway. You can bump into a guy from Puerto Rico. They are celebrating their National Day. You can see a guy from Cuba. You can bump into a guy from Philippines, or from India, from Malaysia, from Israel, from Ghana, from anywhere. So it's a melting pot. So if you want to understand how American youth behaves or how American professionals behave, you need to see them how they behave inside a metro. I think that is why America is a great nation, and that is why American people are great people, because they are so disciplined, okay, and they are so methodical, and they plan their day so well. This is something we can learn. I didn't come here to find fault with America. I came here to learn from the people of America. So with that intent.
I think that intention is worth learning, because if you look for goodness, you will find goodness. And I think the way you observe people behaving in subway also is a learning experience. Now, looking at it from your point of view, and once you start living in a city, many times you become immune to certain things that are happening around you. You see them, but you don't really notice them.
True.
So let us hear from you. In the subway, anything in particular that struck you? And also it is referred to as melting pot, because people from almost all the countries you'll find in New York. So any special observations during your subway visits or travel in subway? And also, if you got a chance to interact with people, they were friendly, they were cooperative, helpful, or they were kind of not as polite and were rude. What was your experience?
See, what I found in the subways is that people generally tend to remain aloof. You know, they are busy with their own mobile phones, which is happening in India also. But in India, you see in subways, people are traveling in groups, so they are talking. And normally, you know, office colleagues are traveling back together, so they are discussing about home, about their families. They are discussing about the office politics. I found that in the MTA, in the New York subway, the atmosphere is subdued. People speak in hushed tones. Of course, one odd guy may burst into a song, and somebody is playing a guitar and asking for money. That happens everywhere. Another thing which I found remarkably peculiar is that election is not more than 30 days away. Am I right?
20 days.
20 days away, less than 20 days away. And I did not find anyone discussing politics. So in the world's oldest democracy, politicking or discussion which is revolving around politics is completely missing. So that left me amazed. In fact, this is a jigsaw puzzle I have not been able to fix yet. How can people be so apolitical? So because you know, you remember India in 2024, everywhere people were discussing who will win. Will it be Modi or will it be the opposition, or you know, all sort of things. But complete disenchantment for the outcome of the result. So this I found kind of, you know, peculiar. Another thing which I found is traveling towards subways. If you are traveling towards downtown, you know, the composition of travelers is completely different. If you are in Manhattan, you will find normally most whites there, you know, who are tourists, who are enjoying. And if you travel uptown, you go towards Jamaica Square, or you go towards, let us say, and towards the island, you will find then, you know, the propensity of white people to live in these places is less. Then, as I was seeing these statistics, more than 50% of America are people from who are not Europeans, not non-white. So composition is changing. In fact, there could be places where there would be no white in a neighborhood. It is possible. So while America is a democracy, while I say America is a melting pot, and yet I find that the human tendency to remain segregated in their own group remains. This is a human tendency everywhere. So all humans are quite alike. So these are some of the things which I found very distinct in America. One more thing which, with your permission, if I can say, I did not find a single seat reserved for women in MTA. In India, on a train, so many seats are reserved for women. Here you will find the only reservation is for people with disabilities. This is something remarkable. If this happens in India, I think a lot of people will rise up in revolt. If the seats which are reserved for women are dispensed with, I am not commenting upon whether good or bad, but in America, no seats are reserved for women. It is a truly equal society. Okay, you go out to work, you are one among us.
I think very interesting observations, and while equality as far as not having reserved seats for women, that also is kind of a statement there, but I think there are certain nuances which we cannot get into right now. People have similar sort of mindset. Men are men, women are women. Though now there is emphasis that who you are in school, in some states especially, they are giving you this option that if you feel that this is not your gender, you change it. And I think one of the discussion that I was listening to yesterday in the presidential campaign also is giving state funding
to prisoners.
Prisoners, absolutely, you got it. So let's venture into this side. Allow me to add one more thing. See, you might have not heard political discussion publicly. People might not be kind of discussing. They may not be comfortable. But I do feel that there is a lot of political awareness, and if you get into the media, whatever discussions are happening, everything is thick into the politics, and there is reasonable amount of excitement about the upcoming elections as we speak. Your take on Democrats and Republicans, and then we will move towards how you foresee it is the outcome of this election is likely to play out for Indo-US relation.
Okay, thank you, Ashok. I just wanted to clarify my position. I didn't say that people are not. See, social media and the mainstream media is full of presidential debates and elections. The policies of this Biden government and how will Kamala Harris be an extension of Biden. So, but people are not discussing it openly, because in India people even discuss with the next guy whom you don't know, whom you are meeting for the first time. Okay,
yes,
so so that tendency. Now, as far as this presidential election is concerned, this I think is the most keenly watched presidential election all over the world, if I may say so, because we had a peculiar situation where one man ran up, and up to the final point he withdrew himself from the race. I am referring to President Biden.
Yes.
And Kamala Harris came, and suppose Biden had ruled himself out from day one, it is difficult to foresee if Kamala Harris would have been the choice of the Democrats, the first choice of the Democrats. So perhaps she has been lucky. I think that what I thought of the lot of discussions on the mainstream media, the presidential debates, and recently the TV interview on which Kamala Harris gave the interview to Fox News. Something which is wonderful is that everybody knows the leanings of Fox News, and yet Kamala Harris offered herself to the grilling by one of the most seasoned journalists. I'm forgetting his name, and he was asking very incisive and kind of pointed questions.
And he was asking her again and again, are you sorry that you took this decision which has resulted into entry of migrants who
6 million migrants, and he said 6 million migrants entered. 6 million migrants entered America in Biden tenure. This is what he said. And
so staying with that interview for a while, because I also watched that intently, and I felt she handled his questions, which were quite pointed, and he did not budge from the angle that he was taking, again referring to the criminal activities where these migrants who came by virtue of the decisions, credit to President Biden and her own presence there as vice president. are you sorry for that? He was asking, and then she was getting into the argument that our immigration is a broken system and it needs to be fixed and it needs to be repaired, etc. She kept on evading the pointed question, but then when he cornered her, and she said, "I am sorry for her loss," etc. So it was not like a wholehearted apology, yet there was, she gave in to what he wanted to hear from her. So I'm kind of, because you have also seen that interview, she kind of maintained her overall poise in spite of such pointed questions. Of course, she was not convincing. Of course, the everything is not as one would like it to be. But just looking at, as you mentioned, the Fox not being friendly for Democrats, but okay, let's just play this game. How would you rate the way she handled those questions to Kamala Harris?
To be very honest, I am not very impressed with the. I mean, and I mean no disrespect, you know. So when you compare Kamala Harris to, you can't compare her to Joe Biden, because Biden had already Biden's best years were behind him when he kind of took over the presidency. But then you compare, you will want to compare her with President Obama, because you know he was the before Biden he was the president. So I think she will pale into insignificance as compared to Obama. So if you are comparing her to Trump, you see Trump is very confident. He may be very wrong, but he is very confident. And in case of Kamala Harris, I thought that the interviewer let her go maybe because she is a lady. And the guy was, you know, kind of thinking, how much more should I press? Because, you know, see, but there is nothing she could have done. And she was supposed to, she was the vice president of the United States of America, and almost an equal partner.
Sorry, allow me to interrupt you. And I found that was a very interesting turning point where he referred to the tagline that turning a new page. So he said, "What page you are turning? You have been there for 3.5 years."
That's true.
So it was kind of.
And she said, "Let me tell you that my presidential years will not be the same as Biden presidential years, because I will bring in a different experience." But I thought in the previous dispensation or in the present dispensation, she was bringing in a collective experience. So it sounded not so warm and not so genuine.
Okay. So let's move on towards the other side. As we speak, the day we are recording, Indo-Canada relationship are going further down. Canada keeps on pushing its sort of allegation on India, and now India has responded by calling back its High Commissioner, and I think it is a cause of concern from some Indians who have now taken citizenship of Canada, and there are plenty of them. And then again, this another tug of war, disturbing tug of war, where you have so all Sikhs are not pro-Khalistanis yet, so there is Sikhs versus Hindus. That kind of a thing is also playing out. So Hindus are feeling vulnerable in Canada, and in this situation, the stand that America so far has taken, and that again we recollect the presence of Pannan, whom Indian government has declared anti-India, of course declared terrorist, but it seems like America is shielding these forces here, as is Canada. Though America is not as kind of aggressive as Canada is, but how do you see Modi government handling this sort of emerging, developing situation?
See, there are three, since you have mentioned three countries, India, America and Canada. See, you have to understand that Canada and America has a very solid relationship. In fact, many people, they are termed as twin countries. You know, there is a free trade, and Canada is the largest trading partner after China for America, and they are almost extension of one another. So, but I find that, you know, Indian government, in this regard, Indian government cannot be too proactive. It has to take each and every step in a very measured manner, because everything has repercussions. You see, Justin Trudeau, he said that there is credible evidence, and then he said there is no evidence. It is in the form of intel report. So when you speak out of turn, I personally think that the relationship between India and China going downward, between India and Canada going downwards, is basically due to lack of maturity on the part of the Canadian Prime Minister. He is a very senior statesman, and in India we have a lot of respect for his father, who was also the Prime Minister of Canada. But I think he has been provoking people unnecessarily here and there, which is creating tension in the ties. India has to react in a constrained manner, which India is doing. It is very easy. India to go all guns blazing after the Canadian government, but I think India is playing a good game. India is playing a watching game. It is not overreacting, and also ensuring that Canada is not able to undermine the supremacy of India in sorting out its own problems. And Khalistan is a dead issue in India. Nobody talks about Khalistan in India. Only people who are talking about Khalistan are Justin Trudeau and his friends in Canada.
So let me interrupt you here and remember one gentleman who is now a member of parliament from Punjab. Was he not pro-Khalistani?
Yeah, you are referring to the guy who won from the jail, and he is still in jail.
Yeah,
he is still in jail. See, it is like this. You cannot say, and he has never openly proclaimed that he is asking for Khalistan. He had his own grievances, but there is nothing to prove yet.
He has taken oaths under Indian
Constitution. So, see, many people are testing water, and they have started testing water after these provocations by the Canadian government. So, in fact, if you ask me, I would like to raise a direct allegation on Justin Trudeau that he is trying to revive an issue which is already dead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as we started from your visit to America, and Indian Foreign Minister has also written a book, not like you, of course, based on his experience. Yours is going to be a fiction, but he's kind of being projected by media in Pakistan also like a James Bond. So recent visit to Pakistan, the way he walked towards the Prime Minister of Pakistan, that body language is discussed in Pakistan media. How do you see, where is the possible next station with respect to Indo-Pak relationship?
Well, Indo-Pak relationship, it largely depends upon the initiative which Pakistan will take. If Pakistan, as it has done right now, there is a general belief that there is a reduction in anti-India activities across the border from Pakistan, and at least the state actors and the deep state actors are they are not on the rise. Things can normalize, but what does normalization mean? See, from the very core, Pakistan state, since it got independence, it has been driving only one agenda among its own people, and that is to annihilate India, so to say. And the problem with Pakistan is, whom do you deal in Pakistan with? Do you deal with the elected government, which many believe is not an elected government but a selected government? Do you deal with the army? So is there a way a democratic government can deal with the army generals directly? So these are the basic issues with Pakistan. So we are not, see, India is a very strong country, but it is surrounded by some of the countries which are very vulnerable in terms of their economy. For example, if you see the Pakistani economy, it is in shambles.
Absolutely.
They have been they were on the verge of defaulting on the payment of IMF loan. So it's a very difficult situation. I think we have to wait and watch. I personally see that the current dispensation is in Pakistan is not as much strident anti-India as Imran Khan was.
And I think there are a couple of reasons. One of them being Pakistan's economic situation at the
Absolutely.
moment. As we conclude this conversation, and we started from America, we went to Canada, Pakistan, now another neighboring country of India, that is Bangladesh. The way things unfolded with Mohammad Yunus coming and taking, being at the helm of affairs, and the role of America and his recent visits to America, and the way he was hugged by President Biden. And so there is a narrative, or there is the way it is perceived, that America has played some role in the way things turned in Bangladesh. So how do you see where it goes? Will there be some sort of normalcy with respect to Indo-Bangladeshi relationship? And we cannot forget the way minority Hindus are subjected to killings and whatnot. So how do you see?
So what happened in Bangladesh is very unfortunate, given the fact that the government in Bangladesh was a secular government of Sheikh Hasina, and that it had largely succeeded in safeguarding the interest of the minority community. So suddenly minority community is on the tenterhooks. There is no doubt about that. Whether the coup there or the regime change there has been instigated or it has been engineered by the USA state, difficult to say. Whether it has been engineered by deep state, well, your guess is as good as mine, because there are conspiracy theories galore. But I personally believe that there are certainly some very, very big money bags who are all the time interested in ensuring that the subcontinent of India is never in peace and harmony. What do they achieve by doing so is something which is mysterious to me. That is number one. Number two, see, in Bangladesh, you will very soon find that Mr. Yunus, who is not president, he is a caretaker head of state, very soon the fundamentalist who very graciously and very warmly and very enthusiastically put him at the helm, they will start to revolt against him, because all said and done, Muhammad Yunus is not a fanatic. Okay, he may be playing a role in being a lobbyist of the powers that be in US. I don't deny that, but he is not a fundamentalist. And second thing is, he is not a man you can arm twist him to do this and to do that. So very soon there will be another revolt, and I personally think, very unfortunately for Bangladesh, Bangladesh will go from bad to worse from here. I am sorry to say this.
So the way you see and the way things unfold, of course, could be different, could be same.
Yes.
We don't know. But what we did with your help is try to have an overview of the situation with respect to, of course, your visit and your observations of New York and Indo-US, Indo-Canada, Indo-Pakistan, as well as Indo-Bangladesh relationships and possible future in the near future. With lots and lots of good wishes to you, as someone who is champion for world peace. What would be your one advice for the leaders as well as for the common man, so that we collectively work towards creating a better future for our next generation?
I think common citizens will do well if they live and let others live. And for the leaders, I only wish that they understand that that this power is ephemeral. Power is not a wife, it is a temporary girlfriend, and they must remember that when the time turns away from them, they will be in deep trouble. And they should always think about leaving a legacy of which their grandchildren can be proud of. That is my idea.
Wonderful. So I'm proud of your expressions. Thanking Dr. Sudhir Bisht from India, and thanking all of you for being a part of this wonderful conversation. This is Ashok Vyas. Namaste.